So, hey guys, welcome to the next episode of Dish. I'll get my cast to kind of introduce themselves and then we can kind of start with the topic, which I'm hoping is going to be fiery. You can go this way round.
Hello, I'm Joel. I work in marketing from Bradford originally, now living in London.
Hi, I'm Rob, your host Rob. As everyone knows me, mostly I do radio presenting, podcasts, red carpet interviews and stuff like that.
I'm Elena, ITS engineer from Birmingham.
I'm Esther and I work in social media.
I'm Sleisha, I work as a media professional and I'm sometimes a content creator.
Richie, presenter and domestic abuse community worker.
Hi, my name is Katie. I work in marketing and I've also started a company called RevScreen.
I'm Kira and I love people.
Okay, so everyone will know what today's topic's about. It's about black women on TV. I mean, originally I tried to split up between reality TV and scripted, but then I thought it'd be really good to actually discuss everything. I guess to start off with, included in that is social media, just so we're kind of aware, because obviously there's a lot of people who blow up on social media and then they go on to have scripted shows or become actresses or even go on to do reality TV and stuff like that. So I guess first things first is what have each of these platforms kind of done for the representation of black women? Is it positive? Is it negative? Are there different platforms doing different things? What are your guys' thoughts?
Are we talking UK or US? Sorry.
UK. We're always talking about UK. We're always talking about UK.
Oh, right, okay.
So scripted wise, obviously you can go through things like Undercover. They had black female leads. You can look at stuff like Chewing Gum. Obviously, you can look at. If you're talking about black female lead, you can still put in something like Line of Duty and that. Because you had Tandy Newton. She's a black British actress. If you're talking about reality TV, you can be anything from Strictly Come Dancing. Because obviously we had Alexandra Burke on that. I think Jamelia's also been on that. We can look at even Good Morning TV shows. So you've got Jamelia did. What's it called on ITV now? Loose Women. So there's that's when I say on TV. Literally, I mean
Ron K. Phillips on the news.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Ron K. Charlie Wang.
Yeah, but there's different people obviously, and you've also got who's that woman who's now blown up on social media? And she's done the L'Oreal campaign.
Monroe?
No, not Monroe. Patricia Bright is also now in that.
YouTuber.
Yeah, so there's different areas. You've got the famous black women on TV when you're looking at reality TV, like Makosi.
Yeah.
You've got
Obviously.
yeah, you've got obviously the modern day ones. You've got Love Island.
Yeah.
There's never been a black woman on Love Island.
No.
It depends. Do you want to include mixed race women into black women? Is that a
I find
debate?
that problematic.
I think
It's very problematic. It annoys me a lot because they do this. It's hard because I feel of course they should be counted as black, yeah. But they're always the acceptable face of black. That's
agree.
why if you try and think of a British black actress, yeah, that's just black, dark skin, brown, and whatever you want to call it. I can't think of one. A genuinely
successful one.
I can think of a few. I just can't remember their names. I
that
can't remember their names. But
you can say Tandy Newton, you can say Sophie Okonedo, what her name is. All of these people, we can read off their names, but they're always mixed race or... Yeah, they're always mixed race. They're not even an exotica version of what is now the new thing. They're just mixed race. So where's the black women?
it depends if you're going to split it down into EastEnders, Coronation. I don't even know if Coronation Street's even had a black person on that one. But EastEnders, wouldn't it be Denise? You'd see black. It depends where you're going.
From back in the day, Lava Hanky.
But even that, the fact that we have to kind of rack our brains to feel okay, who was a black?
I did wrong. Letitia Wright, Black Panther. She's British.
Yeah.
And she just did Black Mirror.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. There's one.
Oh, she's amazing. I think I actually went to university with Patricia Bright's sister Maury, and I've seen her come up. And at the same time, I was doing a little bit of YouTube myself, so I can speak from personal experience. And what I personally feel is, when you are in control of your own story, you have all the power. And Patricia Bright, as pretty as she is, I don't think she's conventionally pretty in this society, especially in the UK. So what she's done is elevated herself because she's built her own audience and then created a platform for herself. Whereas TV in this country, I'm sorry, the way that you're racking your brain to think of black actresses. You said Jamelia twice in the beginning. It's not happening for us. So we need to utilize these small platforms and parlay them into something bigger, in my personal opinion.
Is it? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is it a gender thing first? Because you speak of black women, but then you speak of also mixed race people, men, women, handful of women. But surely, if you're not getting represented, women generally aren't getting represented as well as they could be. So surely isn't that the first issue and the second issue?
I feel like white women are everywhere.
So when I'm talking about, let's say the BBC, they had the whole thing about the pay gap stuff, right? Women are getting paid less than men. Women are getting less opportunities in certain films and so forth. So for me, it's more to do with the equality of gender, because race is secondary in a lot of people's cases. First of all, they think of, even if you look at something like the BBC, it's white old men, basically, right? So after that, they need young people, they need women, they need, so that kind of thing should be first and foremost, and then everything else is sort of part of that.
I think
everyone's going to talk about gender.
For the people at the bottom of the rung, then it's always the first thing, because I don't have anything to fall back on. Like, okay, well, I'm black, but I'm a man. No, I'm black and I'm a woman, so that is it. Like, I'm black, and it's because I'm a black woman that I'm going through this. Like, there's no like, oh, maybe gender, because what they first see
is your black.
Is my blackness. Sometimes I look like a little boy when I'm dressed, but I'm black. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's it. I can't hide from that, and that's what it's based on. If there are way more white women having, we could reel off bare white women that actresses from day dot to now. We had to scrape our minds from back then. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely a race.
And I agree, because I think the reason why gender is so prominent now in the media is because that's what this country feels comfortable discussing.
Yeah, I agree.
And only because it's white women that are having the complaints. Because black women been having complaints about bare stuff for time. No, they pay no attention. Now white women are like, we got problems with this, we got problems with that. This Me Too thing. A black woman started Me Too. But white women are the people that they paid attention to. When we're talking about the gender pay gap, it was the white women that they're talking about. We're not talking about black people.
Even the suffragettes and
even the women's rights, they're talking about white women. I think we have to be very clear that there's different rules that were in place for white women and for black women. And that's only due to, it's not got nothing to do with gender, that's only to do with race.
We're supposed to be at the bottom.
Yeah.
By design, we're supposed to be at the bottom. Simple as that. So I interrupted you.
I completely forgot what I was going to say now. But what I was going to say back to you was that black women, since the very beginning, since slavery times, even though slavery is not as prominent in our history in this country, black women, especially dark-skinned women, have always been at the bottom of the hierarchy. So even if you look at the media, black men, I'm sure like on top of your head, you can think of like at least 3, 4, 5. Idris Elba, number 1. Even he's popular in America, but you will never ever think of a black woman in, like especially a dark-skinned woman in basically anything. We've always been at the bottom. We've always been like the field slave. We've always been the caricature, the character,
the best friend.
Yeah, the best friend, the sassy chick. Exactly. But you will never, we will never be like the forefront character, the main character, the one that has maybe the white or the whatever friend. We've always just been the bottom, like the unwanted stepchild of the planet.
I wanted to add to that,
Yeah.
because Malika.
Who's Malika?
From
Big Brother.
Big Brother, and was she from the Kardashians? To me, she signifies exactly that role of what they expect black women to play. The best friend.
She's the twins.
Oh, you mean
exactly. All she did was play the best friend. She played the best friend in Kardashian. She played the best friend to some girl who no one even knows, besides sidekick on Big Brother, and it was like, you're so comfortable playing this role.
I didn't see those because I didn't watch Big Brother, but the scenes that I saw of her, she seemed a really reasonable woman who stood in her strength. I didn't watch it, so I'm talking to someone.
She was, but I mean, I don't feel like you got any character from her.
She was sidekicked off.
But isn't that more of a personality trait then? Because if she's sort of dormant almost in like all these situations, she has more to do with her personality to
But they wouldn't choose a dormant white woman to go and go into Big Brother. They choose people specifically. You're either the sassy whatever one, like, come on, bring some more of that black stuff. You know, we love it.
Yeah.
Or be the friend, play the role. Do you know what I mean? There's not just well, sometimes I will have attitude because you piss me off. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like,
you're one dimensional.
Well, it's not that those people aren't well rounded. It's how they edit it and how they choose to portray it. Because I'm sure she is.
So how was she viewed by the public? Was she popular in Big Brother? The way she portrayed herself? I didn't watch it, so I don't know.
I don't even know, you know, but what I saw of her, she was just pandering to this white girl and then just pandering to all the other people and then just doing their hair and being their best friend. And I was just like, really? This is what you came on the show to do?
But those are the only characters we ever get. We're the best
This is
friend.
what I mean.
Unless you control your narrative. So with the Cosby Show, for example, and Desmond, you saw a little bit of a difference.
Yes. I'm going easy there all day.
You saw a difference. It wasn't just the mum. She was a doctor.
Life. Yeah. Beautiful, man.
And it's when you was talking about Patricia Bright, it's that control over what characters you play. It's like if you want to be something different to what they want, it doesn't really work. So I had a friend who went on The Apprentice, who was a black woman, and she was like, they kind of tried to like push my buttons to get that character across.
No way.
I ain't gonna name names.
Was it recent?
No, she was on it a few years ago.
Oh, we can go through because there's only 2 black women.
Was it? No,
I mean, it was that thing of like, she's such a reasonable, calm person, but it's just like, we want that character. And I think that's the shame for me.
I think that feeds into dehumanization. The same dehumanization that you're seeing in society. I think there's a thread throughout. Like the media is often reflective of what you see in day-to-day life. So if black women are expected to be one-dimensional on the screen, and people are expecting them to be one-dimensional in real life, like that's a comfortable narrative for people. So I think for a lot of people, when you have to face the multifaceted existence of a black woman, maybe I'm speaking out of turn, so you can correct me because I'm a man and I'm aware of that. But when you have to face the reality of what a black woman goes through every day, it brings up questions within yourself. So it's comfortable for you to be the angry black woman. It's comfortable for you to be the best friend because I never have to face your reality. And if I never have to face your reality, I never have to face the shit that I put you through. It's easy for me. It's palatable.
Do you know what really annoys me when people say black women are angry, or you hear people criticize black women saying, they're aggressive, or they're not easy, they're hard work, or they're feisty. And I think, actually, you have no idea what it is like to be a black woman. If you were a black woman, you would be aggressive and you would be feisty because the stuff that we have to put up with, the barriers that we have to climb over, you have to have such thick skin. You have to keep going even when you're not wanted or you are treated less than everyone else. Like it's a very different way to be. So we're not going to be like when they say, but white girls are easier. White girls have got an easy life. That's why they're easier. Black girls don't have an easy life.
I don't think that's fair because I think a lot of that's a generalisation.
White girls have an easier life.
But when you've said that, you've said as if like every white person, every white girl is privileged.
But I'm not.
And you know,
every white girl is privileged. All of them.
I'm not talking about.
So that means
it's a fact. White girls compared to black girls have an easier life when it comes to.
They don't have an easier life.
No,
they have society.
You mean
but that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about.
Individual people.
Yeah.
We're talking about
Collective.
collectively. Their lives are easier than black girls' lives.
We know what we're talking about.
We don't even. We can just generalize it, or we can look at the statistics. It's up to you. The statistics tell you that they have easier lives in almost everything. From once they've gone to school, when they go to university, when they get a job, what they get paid, where they live, how their family lives. Like, it's just facts. I'm not even telling you something that's not there.
On the flip side, the thing that's great about us as black people is we are hardy. So when things don't go right, we survive. I think black women have the lowest suicide rate amongst every single person.
Wow.
You know, every single person. So, yes,
you
life
got shit to hold together.
Yeah.
Basically.
You
got to hold stuff
You've got to
together.
be strong all the time.
To bring it back to kind of the topic though, like I think one of the interesting things, especially when you're looking at the rise of new reality TV shows like Love Island, and I guess what's on Ibiza Weekender, and all of those kind of shows, I think Yeah, Take Me Out. I think there's a big lip because I think there is a sexualization of black men and black women, but the difference comes between them is that black women are sexualized but not desired. I think, So, I mean, I feel like I wanted to talk about that or discuss it. Is that the case? Is that not the case? Is that how we're represented in society? Are those the roles that we get, or are those the roles that other people get and we see? Because, I mean, even when you're looking at really great shows like Chewing Gum, I think she works in the space of I'm being funny. Is she desirable? I'm not saying it's her job to be desirable, but I feel like, is she desirable? Are there black women who are desirable? Like, and especially when you're looking at reality TV versus scripted, I think there's definitely a space of they're either not there, like with Big Brother, there's never been across the UK, Australia, Canada, and America. There's never been a black person win, and I definitely don't think black women. Sorry, my bad. A black woman has never won across any of them.
There hasn't been a black person that has won.
Right.
But yeah, like I think it's black woman. My bad. It's a black woman, and then you've got all of those other ones like X on the Beach. So I don't watch all of these, so you know, bear with me. But I think there's definitely, I guess, a case to be made that black women are not desirable.
I think that's very, very true. What's that one where everybody was on an island and what's that one?
Love Island.
Love Island. I think that's a very, very good example because that's the first thing me and my friend noticed when we were watching. We were like, oh, where are all the black women? There was a black man, a very dark-skinned black man, and there was like two biracial or like the very racially ambiguous girls. My thing is that I think they just... that it would have been nice if there was a black woman on the show, but the producers knew that even if they had put a black woman on the show, she would not have been, coupled? Was it coupling? She would not have been coupled with anybody, because even that mixed race girl, the very beautiful one,
Montana.
Yeah, she even had an issue, and she's mixed race. So if
she doesn't identify as black.
She doesn't even see.
She's mixed heritage, but she doesn't identify as black.
She doesn't even want to be associated with us.
She's mixed.
But she have to.
Yeah, I don't mean that. I don't think that means
she doesn't have to identify as black because she's mixed race. There are so many mixed race people now. They're a race of their own.
I don't really.
So she doesn't have to identify as black
because I don't identify black. I identify as mixed race.
I identify as black.
So that's to me. That's
but being mixed race,
But yeah, everyone's different.
I mean, I'm not saying that that's a positive or a negative. I'm just saying that she doesn't identify as black. So in this case, would we classify her as a black woman on that show?
No.
When I look at those things, I don't ever classify a mixed race person as black. I understand you could be like politically black, but when it comes to conversations like this, we are not the same like that. So it's like you have to understand.
Absolutely.
And I think like people should just get that. Like it's not like.
I think as well is a point that someone else raised before. I think was about how the mixed race, someone being mixed race is the white person's black, and I do get that because people just say, "Oh, well, you're black." Oh, well, no, I'm mixed race, but they just see the same. So I do get that, and I do get why people class mixed race as well. We've got someone black, we've got someone mixed race, which is essentially the same thing. So I do get that. It's just ignorance, basically, but I do understand why that comes up.
Absolutely.
Back to what you're saying about being desirable, I think that's definitely we're from history where sexual things to be paraded, to have sex with, to touch. Like we've got big bums, we've got boobs, we've got lips. They can dance, they can do all of this stuff. But are we gonna like date them? Are we gonna marry them? Are we gonna like? I'm not really
every black girl hasn't got a big batty.
Exactly. I don't have a big bum. I'm still black. Do you know what I mean? But I think it's definitely a narrative that's pushed in, and which Chewing Gum, I think she was desirable. The fact that she, in terms of someone shook their head right? Let's put that out there. Do you know, I think the fact because she was so anti what you think is desirable, then when you get to know her and all this sort of stuff, the character and whatever, it's like, oh, like, what is desirable kind of thing? What makes someone desirable? Is it because that she didn't look like the typical, what we say is a pretty person? I know she played a character that was like obviously quite extreme and all of that, but I think she I don't know if it was like purposeful, but I think that kind of helped kind of crush that, because you end up still really liking her. And I think people, and she had a love interest and all of that. And she didn't have to be all. Do you know what I mean? She had a man. I don't have a man. Do you know what I mean? Like, good on you.
I think it's also what Chewing Gum represents, though.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you talk about controlling your narrative. She wrote that based on her reality. Like, that wasn't like there wasn't a white person in the room who wrote that script for her. She wrote that script for herself and managed to produce that and make an award-winning show out of it. Like, I think that's amazing. But I do think, I hear what people are saying in terms of it being like a comedy show, but it was nice to see something based in London that wasn't about gangs. Like, it was a funny black experience.
It wasn't about race either.
It was like her reality.
It's just like a community of people. They were all quite different, but the main protagonist was a black woman. That's it.
And she addressed some of that,
I feel like that's what we've been
exotification in one of the episodes where the white man was making her dress up.
It's my favourite episode.
Mine too.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we're calling for. Like, I think if we had more of that, it wouldn't necessarily be so much of a problem of putting out narratives that maybe make me feel uncomfortable, because I look at them as like, I think we're brought up as, sorry, I went to another point. We're brought up to, we always have to put on a sort of facade. We can't shame our culture. We can't shame our family. We've got to be proper to, to go out there to the world. But we're breaking down that, like, we are all of these things. Do you know what I mean? And if all of those narratives are shown, I don't think it's as bad, like, because I know all of those type of people. Do you know what I mean? Like, the people that will go on Love Island, Big Brother, Backchat, all of this. It's all great as long as I can see something for me. I don't know if that's selfish, but I want to see myself on the TV as well.
Do we even want to be on reality TV?
No.
Do we?
I
What is?
don't.
Do we?
I mean, I don't want to be on reality TV, but I think that's quite interesting of the fact that we're talking about reality TV and about the underrepresentation of people on reality TV. But if you want to get represented, surely that's not going to be on quote unquote trash TV, because reality TV is just trash TV, in my opinion anyway. But surely it should be for something which is like controlling your narrative, like you mentioned, as opposed to something which is just kind of not really a good representation of women in general, if you ask me.
But like what you were saying is that you just need us to be represented in all the different genres. So
why do I have to
like if we can accept that there's trash TV and it's like predominantly white reality stars, why can't we have the same thing with all different types of ethnicities, including black women and black men? Black men are largely included compared to black women, where they're non-existent. So I think they just have to be included full stop, rather than it be, we have to make it, so we have to make our own narrative. They focus on that, but they also have to be in all the other places as well. So you see all the different types of black people. We're not just like one people. Everyone's different.
What's that author's name? That Nigerian author? She said something like
Chimamanda.
She talked about the single story.
The single story. It's not about the fact that stereotypes are bad. It's just that that's the only representation of black people. In this particular case, black women. And I agree with what you're saying. We need to be in every single thing, so we show that we have different personalities.
I like the idea of being in different areas and like representing all these different kind of groups. But I think as a race, as people, we already have enough trouble being represented in a sophisticated manner. So by being in trashy TV, reality TV shows, I don't feel like we're doing ourselves any kind of justice. We're not showing ourselves as the amazing people that we are. And maybe it's just me being like narrow-minded, but the last thing I want maybe my children to see or my younger siblings to see is our faces on something that's just so demeaning and like disrespectful to ourselves that I wouldn't want to. I personally wouldn't want to be on that kind of show, and I wouldn't want somebody I'm hoping to grow up into an amazing person to see on TV. I don't want to see my people paraded around in that manner, talking trash to each other, being treated in certain ways. For me, I just don't find it very edifying.
Go on. Can I ask a question? Would it be okay if it was viewed only by black people?
No. I still don't think so. No, I don't think that's the way we should be seeing ourselves. That's not. I don't know. Just for me, it just doesn't seem sophisticated. We are smart people, but people like if you watch any kind of black TV, not any kind of black, majority of black TV, we are already a ghetto or like wild character. We're not seen as, if you think sophisticated, the first thing a white person is, they're not going to think a black person if you think the word sophisticated. So why should we encourage or like accept?
Not all black people are sophisticated.
Yeah, not all black people are
Some are ratchet.
Yeah, but not all black people are sophisticated, obviously. But I don't want to be like giving them the fuel to light that fire already. They already see us in like, they don't see us in the best way. We're already.
But who is it for? I'm not making TV so that a white person can make to. I'm sophisticated now. Will you like me? No. I'm making TV that's entertaining. So what? Because it's like, well, if there are people that are trash in my head, but someone else looks at it and they don't think it's trash. I think we've taken on that. Well, we have to show this to well, we're not all like that. Do you know what I mean? And who says what I think is sophisticated is sophisticated?
But isn't the lack of balance a problem?
That's it.
I think it's the lack of
balance. You're gonna need.
I genuinely don't understand where there's ratchet in UK television which features black people. I've not seen it.
It's mostly in America.
We're thinking about American content.
Even the word ratchet, like
the British stuff that we have, good British household names, black names, Trevor McDonald, Ron Kay, the other woman of BBC with the short haircut, like the other one on ITV, the guy with the weather. Like, we actually have had quite a long narrative of sophisticated blackness in England.
Boring.
And boring. We have a lot of it.
That's the only thing.
And the problem is that when you have people like Alexandra Burke on Strictly, the girl from, what was the programme? The Apprentice. There was a really sophisticated, beautiful girl. They're not liked anyway.
Exactly. I think sometimes it's like, if we do this, if we show ourselves like this, they'll like us. No, they're not going to like us. They don't like us. So
be
yourself. That's why YouTube works.
They had to. Every time you saw them, they were holding it down. One of them was firing, the other one was like, just keep it cool. Because they knew that if they blew up, they were going to be disliked. So we're trying to be sophisticated because that's how
it was
people
horrible
like
to
see
watch.
black
That
people.
was.
I think it's a case of we're seeking acceptance in the wrong places. That's what it is. Do you know what I mean? We're trying to, subdue ourselves or dilute ourselves to fit into what white people think our standards should be. There's nothing wrong with being ratchet if that's who you are. I speak very well, but get me mad and you see a different person. Do you know what? I am very ratchet, and the next day I'll wake up like this. What I'm black at the end of the day. That's just me. Everyone here shows their blackness in the right environment. So I think it's a case of you're seeking your acceptance in the wrong places. What's wrong with, as you said, we need to create our own narratives, and I think now is a good time to start doing that more so, because we are moving up. TV, as we know it, is being phased out. Everything's going online, Netflix, Amazon, YouTube channels, everyone's monetizing off these things now. So now is a good time to change that narrative while we have the power to, because we can't be trying to complain about, the BBC won't show us in the right light. That's the BBC's business. We need to do what we're doing.
On the back of that point, or kind of mixing a couple of points, I guess, is it important to be in certain spaces? Because if that's the mass media, then for me as a young black woman, or even as, not necessarily young as in teenage, but younger as in your 20s, is it still not important to see someone who's there, who looks like me, and they're desired on a kind of public stage? Or do I need to be on like a very niche kind of, I guess, channel, and then I see like, I don't know, Kunle likes me, but like, why can't Dave like me as well? Or why can't I be on a Love Island? Why can't I be on a, like, are we missing the gravity of that?
Why
like,
do we need to be validated?
I'm not saying
I think that's it. No, I think it's an interesting point.
I'm sorry.
Point, because this influences society on a grander scale.
Love Island's huge. Love Island is huge. It is completely affecting how young people see them. I'm not saying this is a right or wrong. I'm not saying social media is right or wrong. I'm just saying it is what it is. Like, are we going to say that, okay, nothing that happens on Big Brother influences society? I think we've all seen the impact that Big Brother can have on society.
Absolutely.
So is it I guess naive to be like, okay, well, I mean, when I'm in my own community, people find me attractive, like, or do we still not need to push into those spaces? And I think you were going to make a point.
Oh no, go on. I've slipped my mind.
I just don't feel like other races have this question. They're not asking to be validated by white people. So why are black people constantly asking, like, please like me, please find me a job?
Yeah, I do think that's quite an interesting point, actually, because I do think that's a quite interesting point, because I mean, how I've always seen things, really, is I've grown up with girls. I've got 5 sisters, right? So from what I've seen, it's very much of like about like attractiveness and all this kind of other stuff. It's just all like, I go back to it all the time, but it's just like gender-based, like woman-based, like how to be a woman, how to behave like this. And they don't really include race in the same way when it's something about being attracted to someone else. I'm actually, my girlfriend's actually Arabic and she's Egyptian. So, but if she never has this, she's quite confused by it. Like, she's like, what does this mean? Like when people are like, saying that they're unrepresented in certain ways and stuff. I go, well, you need to think that some people have a different sort of setup. So like maybe me or you or other people, like they're not represented in the same way. It might not affect you in the same way, even though she might not get represented, but it's different.
Black Egyptians are represented in Egypt.
Yeah. So and this is the thing, and she's quite light, so it's kind of a bit like.
Are they desirable in general though? If society validates you in other ways, like you're always going to seek some sort of validation from some place. So if I know that if I walk down the road, I attract a variety of different people, or if I know on television, like there's different ways that you are impacted by societies. I mean, television is one of those places. Social media is one of those places. But I do think when you look at Take Me Out, or I see the black women on there and I'm cringing. I don't watch the show, but anytime I even flick past or I'm at someone's house and I see black women on, I'm like, why are you putting yourself in that environment where you know you're going to be rejected over and over again? Like, I'm like, and then I think, if I was 14 and everyone in school watches that particular show and the black woman is never ever picked, and then you've got like the narrative of some black men in the school, some white men in the school who are telling you, you're butters anyway, or like no one wants black women anyway. I'm like, this is compounded by the fact that this is happening on these spaces. It's quite interesting
to talk about men as well, because I remember someone mentioned a point before about how black women are perceived, but some of it is by black men. So how is that helpful for black men to? I understand more why. If men are being like, I understand like maybe why white people are being like that, right?
White supremacy is meant to affect everybody. Yeah. You don't have to be white supremacy to believe in the idea of white supremacy. That's the whole point of it. So that's why when you have black men that are derogatory about black women, because they bought into the white supremacy.
Black women believe it about them.
And women, anyone. It's just an ideology. We could all be part of it.
Which goes back to her point. It is important for the media to show that, because I grew up with a positive influence. I have beautiful people in my family, as you can tell. But in terms of imagery in my household, it was Martin Luther King. It was so many positive black people. And I think it's important to have that in the media. Whether you believe in it or not, someone else will. Yeah. Someone else needs that. And that's why I think it's important to have it. Even if you don't care about it. I don't need that on the TV, but I think other people do.
I think it's good, like, that there are different avenues, like, you know, the Patricia Brights but the whole kind of goal is to make it to that mainstream. Like, we're all like, but I mean, I guess with the Patricia Bright, there's this, she does have a white husband. So is that is that why? And a lot of people do say on YouTube, these interracial couples are the ones that are making it.
World channel.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
they make bank, you know.
They make a lot of money. So it's like, is this just filtering It is, because like you said, it's an ideology. It's not something that we can take away and just kind of hide, because we have got it. As black women, we think of ourselves like this. And it's something that we have to change as a community, so that we understand when we're going into these places, it's not to go so that we're asking for validation or that we have to numb ourselves down. It's that this space is for me. Even if I'm the only person here, I can feel proud in it. But if you're coming with like well, thank you, like, then I think it changes. So then you might still have a black woman on the screen, but you don't really want, it's not the representation that maybe I want. I don't know.
I just think it's important. Like, I used to, I'm not sure if anyone else watched it, but there was a show called America's Next Top Model. And the great thing about it is you had so many beautiful black models. You had Tyra Banks, you know, doing this whole TV show. And it just changed the way I feel black women saw themselves on TV. You never saw...
She wrote the show. It's her show.
No, but
she's black.
She's one person. There's so many people who are involved in this show. And when this show was syndicated around the world, you don't see, especially here, you didn't see no black people being, number one and stuff. But you had Eva, you had so many proud black women. I just think it's important, just to hammer on the point.
I don't understand why we can't have shows that are like predominantly black, like Black Big Brother. Like it would just be so much better. And then we don't have to. I just find it boring to keep trying to penetrate through this wall that isn't going anywhere. Yeah. And if we had our own Big Brother, it would be so good.
There was some. It was American. It was something like a Big Brother.
Even they used to just fight everything. Apprentice, every single program.
They pick those kind of characters.
That's it. That's it, and that's why it has to be us that make it. Our producers, writers, all of that. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that are going to edit it. Hopefully, you're thinking that our own people ain't going to edit it. So
where does that come out? Because you had if you read some of the articles from Makosi 10 years on or however much since she was in Big Brother. And some of the other people who've been on the show. I think Makosi specifically, I think we all had a view of her. And she's like, when I came out, I was so shocked that everyone thought of me as so sexualised. Yeah. And I was just like, when I read it, I thought, what? And she was like, but you have to remember the way they edited it. There's loads of footage that I was in. She was like, I think either on that season or across any of the other seasons, but I think it's that season, she was the most viewed in the shower.
And that's the thing.
Out of all of the women, not just out of all of the women and all of the men, she was the most viewed while she was in the shower. Not that she was doing anything particularly crazy.
Hey, I'm in the shower now.
Just that she was on TV and viewed in the shower over and over and over again.
And that's the thing. I remember being young when that was on, and in terms of being, sexualized but not desired, she was running after that guy from Newcastle or whatever, saying she was pregnant. Apparently, this is what was the press put out. And it was this narrative of this girl is thirsty, this girl wants to be with this white guy, she's trying to trap him.
Savage black woman.
Yeah, very much. So when I read that, I was like, oh snap! I didn't even think of it that way because I didn't at that stage of my life realize how things were edited. But I was just like, wow, stay clear of someone like Makosi. Because I guess that's how it came across. So it is quite scary when you think about it like that. But I think you talked about the weighting of reality TV where we're portrayed in one way compared to scripted TV where I guess there's more. There can be more control if it's a black producer, and it's just. I do think it's about the weight of that because we can create shows online and stuff, but as a young person, I'm still exposed to TV and those things growing up.
I just want to get back to my point about black stuff, How I just have to say it because I need to say it. You know how America have, come up with all of this black content now, like Insecure, or even things like Real Housewives of Atlanta, that's just predominantly black, or like the black films that they do. It's just like, what is the issue with doing that with the UK? I know, but this is. I feel like black people in the UK still want to have this more of a general narrative, including
they're black
there's not things online. There are loads of black creatives doing stuff online, all over YouTube, all over Instagram. It's everywhere.
Yeah, but I think she's talking about mainstream, proper TV and stuff, right?
Well, just on that scale, where you can. It's good production quality. The script is, it's written well. And it's not excluding white people from the stories, but they're not the main protagonists in the story.
They did one on BBC Three. I can't remember what it was called. It was that Come Musical, something called some musical thing where it was musical thing but meshed with Top Boy kind of it was a very strange thing going on there, and there was. It was reality, but then they would just burst into song, which was quite strange. But that was a predominantly black cast, but it's still, if the production is not black, or the producers are not black, then you end up in a situation where the black woman, the darker skinned black woman, was still the sidekick and undesired or not desired, then the lighter skinned woman or mixed race woman was desired and she was the love interest or whatever. The lighter skinned man or the dark skinned man, I don't think it really mattered in that case.
Dear White People was that in America?
No, that was BBC Three.
So
like
I'm saying in America, the protagonist was a light skinned mixed race looking woman. In Dear White People.
Yeah, I mean that's again like that kind of narrative, like, and especially if you've got people, you need, not to bring up this word, but woke black people to be doing it, because as you said, if people subscribe to like white supremacy, even if they're creating the content, are we really going to escape from the same narrative? Because there are enough black women and men who think being lighter skinned is attractive. So if we're still perpetuating that narrative, like who exactly do we get to create this content? And then how are we getting them to commission it? Because that's where we need to reach a wider audience. And yes, there's a lot of people living in London, but what about if you don't live in London? Like,
yeah, that was one thing I was going to talk about, because I was from Bradford and there wasn't that many black people there. So when it came to what I watched in school, I want to watch what my friends watch, right? And if what my friends watch is the kind of mass media stuff where black people are portrayed a certain way within just kind of the everyday TV programs, that's how I end up kind of perceiving my own race. So it's kind of, it has to be accessible to the mass media for everyone, because when I think about, as a young kid, what films or TV shows did everyone like? It was like Kiddlehood. You know what I mean? Like everyone would talk about Kiddlehood, and that's when they wanted to be a black London gangster. That was the thing. That was the only popular mainstream movie in the UK that I saw with black people. I didn't really see anything else. And when I don't have people around me, I think we're in a good age now where social media allows us to connect stories from people no matter what location you're in, if you're black. But yeah, I had to rely on TV and mass media to see people that look like me.
I think with that though, that is an example of someone depicting their reality. Do you understand? So it's a bit difficult when you say that, you know, you shouldn't be portraying that kind of image of black people when that is a lot of black people's reality, and they're just making that into a movie. Do you know what I mean?
But isn't a lot of people's reality?
Yeah. But I think it was just that. It's just that became. It was that depiction of black people that became popular, and that's the one that seems to become popular more than anything else.
Yeah,
that was
they referring to was that kind of black person.
Exactly. It's just it's that is the one that's always perpetuated. Or again, like we talked about before, it's a silent person, doesn't really have that much character. So it's like one extreme or nothing. It's like you can't just be, I guess, you. And I think it got to a point where people do think, oh, that I've had when I was up north, people are, oh, but you're not that black, are you? Because I'm not what they see on TV. I'm not the popular black gangster that you see on TV.
So you're an exception to the rule.
I become an exception rather than just me, which I think is the danger with TV.
I think it's just going to take way longer for us to have the insecures, because obviously, you know, she started online, and like Richie said, there are loads of online, but it's because we're a smaller minority in England. I think. I don't
America's
really know.
huge.
Obviously they've got like a whole.
In
Do you know,
America,
exactly. They're just
3%.
So then people will watch it. Do you know what I mean? Because really, the people that watch those sorts of shows are going to be black people. So if there's 5 black people watching it, BBC's not going to put it on there. Do you know what I mean?
We make up 20% of London, and like we make up over 1 million people. Like it's quite a lot of people, and that's a lot of viewing. You know, so I think when you look at the numbers, that we have more power than we think we do. We're 3% of a large population.
That's if 3% is even true. As well. Yeah, you have to think about, these are just numbers. I could put a number out the air and say,
I think that was the last
census. That's another way that they can make us feel like even
and
more of a
minority
minority than we are.
Exactly. Over a quarter of London, which is a good chunk.
If only London watched it, that's good viewing.
That's what I was saying. Is this reality? Is the reality that they portray of black people? Is that actually most people's reality? Because if that's what you're pushing out,
not most people, but a lot though. Okay, I come from white Birmingham. I grew up with loads of trees, loads of fields and stuff. I grew up around a lot of white people. But the majority of black people and everybody that I know, all my friends and stuff, you know, growing up as a teenager were from inner city Birmingham, and that was their reality. So I was, you know, an exception to the rule, if you want to call it. So that's the reason why I say that, because I can only speak about where I come from. In London, you know, if you think about London, generally you think every black person's from an estate where you have to climb 50 flights of stairs to get to your house. That's just what we think of, you know, people in London. But you're saying that it may not be everyone's reality. So, you know, maybe you are right that that's just.
I think I think it's a much less of a reality than we think it is, and that's the whole point. Even us as black people, we still don't. Is it true? Are we like that?
That's what.
Because we watch TV. Do you know? We spend a lot of our time consuming all of this media. We don't even know what we're like ourselves. Like I don't know. Are all my friends not doing Who knows? Maybe that did. I didn't grow up. But did I grow up in a flat? Like I don't know. That's how much we are so
brainwashed.
We are brainwashed, and it's, you know, we should just stop watching TV, to be honest.
I don't know anything about Black Britain, to be honest with you. I really don't, because I went to the same situation as you. I lived in West London. Well, I still live in West London. And I grew up around mainly white, some Ghanaians, a little bit of Nigerians, but mostly Asian people and white people. And I don't know my own Black British culture. I only know a little bit of Ghanaian culture, a little bit of English culture, that's it. So you raise a good point. I want to know more about my people.
I think with experiences, they're balanced. Like where I grew up, I was never involved in gang life, but I've probably lost about 16 people to murder. Equally, I know people who are working amazing jobs, doing amazing things, really progressing in society. I think there's a real balance of experience. I think you can come from ends, and there are going to be people on ends who are ghetto, who are about this life, who are mashing down the road, and they're going to be people that come from ends who are very successful, doing great things in society. And my issue is, I didn't watch Top Boy, to be fair, but I feel like a lot of these programs are showing the hood and are only showing gangsters in the hood. Like where I come from was a real ghetto area, but we were all balanced. We all spoke to each other. When I was doing the job that I was doing, there was man from the ends that was doing stuff on the road, but they'll see me and be like, "Oh, you're doing really well for yourself. Like, I'm really proud of you." So that like this narrative that they're pushing, like everyone's gangster, blah blah blah.
I think it's quite
glamorization.
I think that's quite a good point as well, though, because also I do think as well sometimes there is that kind of like, oh, either everyone's a roadman or everyone's this. But when it comes to people doing well, I feel like we need to branch out into different fields, because everyone's bait one is music and football, right? I spoke to someone the other day, and he's from Tottenham, and he's like, look, if you're not a rapper, a footballer, or a drug dealer, you ain't nobody in Tottenham, right? So that kind of perspective is that there needs to be, or people need to be involved in more. I'm not saying footballers and musicians are any less that bit successful, but if people are getting involved in being doctors, or they're being this or being that, or being lawyers, for example, surely that branches out and that kind of infiltrates more different sectors, as opposed to, because then I'm sure people have that. I mean, I deal with a lot of artists, and I'm sure they get the same sort of thing all the time, where it's like, oh, you're a rapper, oh, okay, cool, you must be a rapper, and the guy might be like an acoustic singer or something, but they're like, oh, no, but you must be a sick rapper, yeah, kind of thing.
But there are loads of black lawyers, like, and there are.
I know, it's not pushed in the same way where everyone's like, well, you're either a baller or a rapper. That's how you're successful. No one really pushes that. You're a black lawyer who's successful from being a lawyer, and that's part of the problem as well. But I do think internally we need to give, like, when we talk about children and our family and our close family, things like that, we need to give them more opportunities, more options, and say, like, well, look, don't instill that into them, because some parents do instill that to their kids. Like, oh, well, you know, you can, that's fine, you can play football, you could be good at football, or you could be even like...
I think that's the point I'm making.
Representation of black women in the media, like you're portraying, you know what, this isn't just one narrative. As a black woman, you could be this, and that. Sorry, please.
I think it goes back to, actually, well, just because it's not on TV, as much as it's important, I agree that's important. But just because it's not on TV doesn't mean it's not happening, kind of thing. And we need to change our own mindsets, because maybe that's why we can't write these stories, because we don't believe it. Like, there are lawyers, there are loads of business owners, there are loads of other black people doing other things. That is just it. Even if I don't know it, that's it. So maybe like creatives, maybe we only around creatives. So that maybe they're just only musicians or actors. So we only know them. We need to get out of our own bubble and meet some other black people. So then we'll have other stories to tell. Because maybe I only know rappers, and
I feel like it's a cultural. I feel like it's a narrative that white people have made. Black people have only ever been physically dominant, so therefore that's why we are shown as sports people. And then in terms of music, we are entertainers to entertain other races. So therefore,
anti-teeth ideas from.
But so I feel like in that I get that narrative. But I mean, if you're talking about, I come from a Caribbean and African background. I mean, my Caribbean background, people are from a variety of different fields. Do you know what I mean? And then if you're looking at traditional African backgrounds, I don't know anyone who's sitting there going, "Well, why don't you perhaps be a footballer?" That would be shocking to me. Like, unless you're talking about maybe their second, third generation. I mean, there is only 3 careers that you can really go into, and that is it. So when we're talking about stories now, I'm like, have we disenfranchised or have we kind of segmented our mind? Because I'm like, especially if we're talking about African stories, who are these people that only thought they could do music and sport? Because it sounded to me like they were told in their household that they needed to be a lawyer, a doctor, and whatever else. And they might have just decided to go off on a tangent, and their parents are still looking at them like, I mean, when are you gonna? So why are we missing those stories?
Because I think the white supremacist narrative. I think that's the whole point, is that they give you limited things to go with, and then they're not going to show you positive stories.
But to me, who's writing it though? You look at people like Ashley Walters. He's writing this stuff. Like, I'm not saying it's not his reality. I'm just saying this is not somebody who's pushing a narrative who is white. He is a black person writing this narrative. It could not be the worst narrative. It could. Do you know what I mean? It's the worst narrative you could possibly see.
That gets picked up by the people
Precisely.
that
And that's it.
and who are the people who have the money.
I don't think there's anything wrong with Top Boy, because I think as a black woman, I didn't identify with these people at all. I just enjoyed the story and the glamorization of the gang, of any kind of gangster story. I'm like, cool, this is wild. Let's have fun. That's all I go there for. I don't look at it and be like, oh my God, this is how black people are.
Yeah, I hear that.
Oh my God, they're representing me, because I'm so removed from them that I'm just watching it as the story.
Doesn't that depend on your age though? If I'm watching content when I'm 30, it's different to when I was watching content at 17 and the people who were in the show were also 17. Like, when I was young and I watched Kid Up Here, I was pretty much the same age, if not a little bit younger. Maybe like I would have been 13, 12 at the time it was coming out. This was like, this is reality. Wow, like, I wasn't changing my mindset to think, oh, they're representing stuff that's not really going on, or it's like a specific type of person they're representing. Like, I feel like, is there a difference? Like, I know you have places like Waterloo Road, which is also like school-based, or you had Grange Hill, but I'm going back. But yeah, like, I'm like, the realities that we are showing, even as people who are black script writers, like, this is quite damaging, I think, to our own community. Like,
I feel like positive scripts are being written, but they're not being picked up. Like, they put money, they back money behind certain types. Sorry, you were going to say something.
No, finish your point.
No, that was it.
Oh, okay. No, I just wanted to say that we do see a lot of this stuff on TV. They are portrayed like that, and you're right, it's a lot of negative stereotype. But I do think a lot of it, people forget about what happens inside your house. Now, inside your house, we know that even if your reality is what is on TV, you've got people at home saying to you, well, that's not going to be you. That's not how you're going to behave. And this is how you do this. And this is what's right. And this is what's wrong. But I do feel like a lot of people don't really cotton on, especially now with social media and stuff like that, cotton on to what their kids are really about. And what's the funny thing is, they think that they can kind of not really only semi-parent them until they're like 13, and then it's just too late. They've already been digested by all this stuff, right?
It's mad. My little brother is 9, has WhatsApp. He's on like the family WhatsApp group, and I'm like, nah, this is right.
That can't work.
And that's it, because then that means there's access to YouTube, and then he has,
to the phone. It's too much. Man.
Exactly. So you start to be.
I totally agree with that. I've got a 10-year-old daughter, right, and there's some constant conflict in my house between me and her dad because, you know, he wants to compensate with material things all the time. So she's got an iPhone, PlayStation 4, Netflix in her room, this and that. She's got all of these things, and it's constant. It's to the point where I just had to, you know, put a password on her Amazon account, switch it to that, and you know she can only watch it when I let her watch it. That's the only. But it's difficult because you don't want to be constantly arguing about what she. Do you know what I mean? It's a conflict of the way we see things. But I personally don't think she should have those.
I know. I think
you're right.
I think you're right because what's interesting. I mean, I'm not a parent, but like I have young nephews and stuff, and I think that what people seem to do now is very much like, oh no, they can do what they want. They have their own mind. No, you don't. Yeah. You're under 18. I have your mind for you, big man. Basically, until like, do you know what I mean? And like, if you've got a daughter who's 9 or 10, sorry, like you're in charge. Like, but I think now people are very much all like they try to do a kind of parenting where it's like, oh no, it's fine, whatever you need, kind of thing. And it shouldn't really work like this because then you have these problems. And like I say, with social media, with TV, they're just going to let them parent them. And then when it gets to that stage, it's just going to be too much.
I think it is.
Go on. So I was going to. Go on.
No, I was just saying that I think it's important though that, you know, even if they are exposed to these things, it's still important for you as a parent to condition your children to make them understand that just because you're watching this on TV, that is not your reality. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's the way that I try and fix the problems that I think her dad's causing. By, you know, encouraging open discussion between me and my daughter. Like some of the things we talk about, he probably thinks are inappropriate, but that's my daughter. I was a girl once, not that long ago. So I wish I had these open discussions with my mum. Okay. So that's probably why I didn't follow the crowd in that way, because of my own thought processes. So I try and instill that in her.
Do you know what I was going to say? What I think is interesting is that we were having a conversation about the representation of black women on TV, and it felt like it moved to the representation of black men on TV and these gangster shows. And I'm wondering, like, in Top Boy and these shows, how were black women represented? Because I didn't see them. And we started talking about sons and nephews, and you were talking about your daughter as well, and I was getting involved in the conversation. I thought to myself, it's really funny how the conversation started off, let's talk about the representation of black women in the media and on television, and then it moves to the representation of black men.
I did want to talk about it now. I wanted to bring up Alexandra Burke on Strictly, because that was, I think, a big issue with representation of black women on reality television. And there was the girl from, what's it called? The Apprentice. Some girl called Joanna, who was really victimised in the show. And they were two prominent shows, both BBC, both dark-skinned black women, who were treated terribly and could do no right with whatever way they approached anything. They were always wrong or seen as aggressive. And I thought that it was important to talk about it because we can't keep going on with the same representation. And I think that the people that are creating the content don't have any idea of what they're really doing and how they're doing it and how it has a knock-on effect on everything else.
They do.
Yeah,
like you said,
I actually don't think they do.
I think they do. I think this is something that they've known about for a long time. Like one thing that comes to mind is Misha B. I don't know if you guys know.
Oh gosh, Misha B.
It was reported to be some bully and all this. This came from the producers.
Oh, I remember this.
And I was just thinking to myself, this shouldn't have come from the producer. This is a music show. It should be about the talent that you have. And then you had her and that girl just arguing back and forth. The judge, I forgot her name, Talisa or something. And I just thought it's just unprofessional. And it's
sorry, that's
come on. But the thing is, I think TV has been going on for 50, 60, 70 years. They know what they're doing.
But Alexandra Burke, this is why it's different. Alexandra Burke had such positive feedback from everybody, the judges, producers.
They still wanted that.
But it was the public. It was the public that
do black people vote though? Do black people vote?
It wasn't even about voting. It was about the narrative that they chose to run with her in the papers, on social media. It was a hate campaign. Her mum had just passed away, and when she cried, they said, "Oh, here we go, the waterworks." When she didn't cry, they go, "Oh God, she's got a heart of stone." She literally couldn't breathe. If she even looked, you can see her on the camera, be like, "Wait, if I look down, they're gonna be like, what's she doing?" It was so awkward.
It's heartbreaking to watch that.
It's like you can't bully black women. that's the narrative. It's like you can't. They're not bullyable. If that's.
But
the
she
word.
was bullied.
She
was quite.
we don't have feelings.
Yeah.
They don't feel like we have feelings. Yeah.
So you can't break.
It doesn't matter. Guys, get up and work.
Yeah.
Deal with it because you can't cry. You couldn't be crying from real. It must be because you're angry.
Yeah.
You're jumping the
Watching
crowd.
out on TV.
Exactly.
It's kind of on the back of Richie's
I
point,
was one.
like on the back of Richie's point, what is the responsibility of black men in this situation? Because I think sometimes, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like as a people, black women stand beside black men, but when you're in these particular scenarios, black men feel like it's like, well, I don't want to get involved. Like I said, I don't want to. It's not that they don't. Sometimes it's not that they don't necessarily want to support. It's almost like, well, I'm trying to get involved in a battle that's not really my battle, or you know, like
it's your battle. That where from my perspective is jump into that battle each and every time. So for me, I'm very conscious of not fighting for black women, but fighting alongside them. Because I don't want to change the narrative. It's not my experience. But if I am if I'm in a room full of men and they're chatting shit, know that my mouth's going to be running. I've done it in the barbers. I said this on one of our last podcasts. Man in the barbers don't, well, I go to barbers anymore, I'm bored. But when man in the barbers won't chat for me because I will be like, you're chatting shit. Like, you're chatting shit. I don't take black woman bashing anywhere around me. That can't run. Like, you can cuss me out for it. You can want to fight me for it. I don't care. Because that is representative of all the women on my dad's side of the family, my goddaughters, my cousins. Like, you can't do that shit around me. Like, that's a personal, my best friends, my closest friends. Like, for me, and this is probably going to lend itself to like the psychic thing, yeah, but for me growing up, my best friend has always been a black woman. Always. That's always how it's been from this high until my age, 33 now. Do you know what I mean? That's always been who's been by my side. So for people to chat shit in front of me and me not defend that, I'm not defending a part of myself. I'm only the man I am today because a black woman was by my side supporting me. That's the only reason why I am who I am today. So to sit there in silence and be complicit in that, you are a problem. You're no different to white people who are racist. You're no different to white supremacists. You're complicit in that. Sorry, I'm getting passionate.
I think it's common though. That's it. I hate to say it because I don't like to separate black women from black men, but I feel like black men don't back black women a lot. They come up with the stereotypes, oh yeah, but black girls are feisty, or they're hard work, or black women are like this. And black women tend, just from my opinion, I think black women, we tend to stand by black men, like, without you even questioning you. We're like, cool, something's gone down, all right, we're going to stand and we're going to defend you. Even if you didn't defend us, even when they didn't defend us, even when they're not even in our corner, something goes wrong, we're like, cool, he's black, we're going to stand by him. We don't get, I don't think we get, OJ is a perfect example. You know.
But we saw it in that recent, I know it's music, but they were talking about that the girl that's popular these days in all these different songs, and her mum was
Cardi B?
No. Her mum was that girl from Nina.
Mabel Cherry.
Yeah. So then they had, I didn't really see it, but on Instagram or something. Yeah. And all the black guys were like, no, it's not true. Like, you guys are just hating on this girl. It's not because she's light skinned. And it's like,
I think
come on, just accept it. Just say it one time.
But I do think the context of that was like a bit of an unjustifiable attack, because all it was is the guy was Notes, which is the rapper, and Mabel, and I think they were standing next to each other. There was no caption to say, oh, this is my woman or anything else, and people started. But then the whole thing was like, oh, she's like this. They were just like straight. I don't know, I didn't see these comments, but I heard it was just like, okay, they're just straight slagging the girl off. To me, that's what it is, they're slagging the girl off. I don't know why they're slagging her off, but then he's come out and said like you can't slag off my friend like that, it's not on. And then everyone made it about, about the race, and she's like this, and then personal attacks on her about her as an artist and everything else, but then it was completely taken out of context. If it was context and he said something,
I don't really know.
It looked like that. Then obviously, then people can talk about and say whatever they want, and people are entitled to their opinion. But
on the back of that, I mean, I know it's not Black British, but I think it's interesting. But Matthew Knowles has recently come out and said Solange and Beyonce have been successful because of the fact that they were lighter skinned. That was he's come out and said.
That's an argument for you.
Why is he
I don't know. No, but
that's telling the true.
No, it is true.
No, it's true. But can you think of any popular mainstream singer that is a dark-skinned woman?
Brandy.
No, that's an American one. What about a British woman?
Gabrielle was successful.
What are you talking about? Relevant now.
She's light skin.
She's light skin.
Yeah.
She's a brownie.
Green can come true.
Whitney Houston.
What?
She's dead.
No, but she was popular.
She was huge.
I think back in the day there was a lot more darker skinned women who were
In the 90s.
successful.
Yeah.
Like
In the
even
90s,
looking at
but not
actresses and
Yeah.
also
But the thing is now, dark skin is not on trend. Like maybe in certain situations when you've got like Eurocentric features, long weave, whatever, yeah, then that's fine, dark skinned woman. But then when it comes to like mainstream stuff, to have a woman with a broad nose and thick lips and, you know, kinky hair, that's not on. It's not on trend anymore. That's not a thing. And it's not you. When I think of a song, when I think of something popular, even if they don't have the best voice, I always picture a successful black woman to be a light-skinned woman. Like look at women like Rihanna. She cannot sing, but she is very popular because she is beautiful. No,
She can.
Live is a bit shaky,
yeah,
but
she's not great.
She's got a lot there.
But yeah,
But
she's
is
a big
Rihanna,
brand.
is Rihanna not a brand? Like I feel like
Yeah.
we've moved into an
Yeah.
era.
Yeah.
where
She's a brand.
She is a brand.
Because
not an
she is a
artist.
light-skinned woman,
With
but
green eyes.
yeah, with green eyes as well. That's why she is popular. And then Beyonce, she's got greenish eyes as well. She's popular because doesn't she have greenish eyes?
I
Tyra
think the
Banks
dark.
does, but
I think she's hazel or something. I don't think
Cardi
they're light
B,
brown or something like that.
Rihanna.
Yeah, Cardi B. Let's Cardi B.
That's
Come on.
trash. I'm sorry. I've said
I don't know.
I've been trying to understand, like, because I'm not trying to be a hater. I'm trying to understand what is it about her?
She's herself.
Yeah.
She's
Why is
herself.
she getting accolades the same as Lauryn Hill?
Let me
What
just
is
give
it
you
about?
that's a
the
bit mad.
other option that they were trying to give us.
Yeah.
Iggy Azalea.
Okay,
Yeah.
Mad.
I love you, Cardi. You can say that. You can say that.
But to be fair, Cardi B bought a brand. Built a brand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before,
Just by
yeah.
being herself.
Yeah.
It's a change of the industry why she's
Yeah.
been able to. It's I'm not hating on her because you know what, she made it from wherever she made it to now.
Yeah.
Cool. And it helps that she is light skinned. But
she black?
she correct
Yeah,
no.
she is.
no, she's Dominican. She's black.
I don't know what she
Yeah.
means.
I think she's
Yeah.
Trinidadian.
I have
Yeah.
no idea. Yeah.
Well, actually, no, she does.
Yeah, she does.
I didn't know she
And
was
her
black.
mum's Trinidadian.
On that note, on that note, guys, on that note, we kind of have to wrap up. I mean, we're obviously started talking about American people. We don't talk about American people. No, I'm joking. But yeah, no, thank you guys for coming on. Thank you.
And also, Cardi B's not black. Basically, her